sorry about that abrupt end. The dogs are starting to bark. Someone came here and my time was almost up. So I just abruptly ended the video like that. But as I was saying, the CPR was the autonomous state, what we now know as Crimea. So, and Iran knows all of this. They're looking at it from behind the scenes. Putin knows this as well. So, let's see how deep. This should really say purged Tatars from Crimea, instead of Crimea from Tatars. I guess you could go both ways. Kind of, maybe. It was 1944, it was not 1934. So now with all this list we have, we are now creating an archetype, but we don't know what that archetype is. We know that it's something important though. So they defeated Israel through Jerusalem with the Roman Empire. They're doing something the Roman Empire could not do on their own. Crimea is annexed by Russia, but claimed by Ukrainians to be owned by Ukraine. Stalin purged Crimea from Tatars. 1944, I should have remembered that because I know that it was right before. That was almost near the end. Hang on, let me get this. When did 1945. So that was almost a year. That was over a year before World War II ended. That's an important fact because Crimea was actually involved in World War II. Not in a battle or anything like that. It was actually, it's called the Yalta Conference. The Yalta Conference. Which was hosted in Yalta, Crimea. So that was in I believe that was in 1945. Let's see. Tell me about the Yalta Conference. It was when Churchill, Stalin, and who was the other guy? The United States president. They met in Crimea. They didn't call it Crimea at the time. They just called it Yalta. The Yalta Conference was one of the most important and symbolic moments of World War II, shaping the post-war war. February 4th to 11th, 1945. Yalta, a resort city in Crimea, which was then part of the Soviet Union, recently liberated from Nazi control. Also called the Crimea Conference, known as the Big Three: Joseph Stalin, Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, and Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. The main goals was how to handle Germany, plans for Eastern Europe, the future of the United Nations, the Soviet Union's entry into the war against Japan. Germany would be divided in 4 zones: American, British, Soviet, and French. Berlin, deep inside the Soviet zone, would also be divided into 4 zones, which would later become the Berlin Wall, where they divided East and West. But that would be much later on in the whole thing. Well, not too much. Well, what was that? 1960? When was that? Yeah, August 13, 1961. So it's close. I said 1960. Nazi war criminals would be hunted down and tried. Countries like Poland were to have free elections, though Stalin had other ideas. Of course he did. Declaration of Liberated Europe was issued, promoting democratic self-determination. Again, more symbolic too. And this was all going down in Yalta. This was all, so we can add that too. determined how the war would function after World War II, or post-World War II. After World War II. Command Global War. You could say Command Global War, World War II. And I put that in there for a reason. Stalin agreed to enter the war against Japan within 3 months after Germany's defeat. In exchange, the U.S. would gain can't pronounce that word, the Kuril Islands, influence over Manchuria. I'm not sure where those are. Kuril Islands. I think those are the islands that. I think those are the islands that Russia. Is it Russia or is it China that fights for those islands? I know that they're fighting islands around Japan. I don't remember who it is. The Kuril Islands. I've heard that name before, and I know it's Japan's islands. I think it's Russia that wants them. I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I think it's Russia. Plans were finalized for the creation of the UN, where the Security Council, including permanent members, US, UK, USSR, China, and France, with veto power. So they created the UN. Russia. Okay, that's how UN was created. Critics of the rest gave away Eastern Europe to Stalin. Sounds familiar, especially Poland, which ended up under Soviet domination. The Cold War seeds were planted here, despite smiles and handshakes. Deep mistrust underlined the talks. Roosevelt's health was in serious decline. He died just 2 months later, which some believe affected the firmness of the U.S. stance. Yalta marked the end of W2 cooperation, the start of Cold War. We could put in started Cold War. We could say that. A pivotal moment in the division of the world between Soviet and Western spheres of influence. Alright, interesting. So, division of the world, West and East, like I said before, Crimea, as I've said with Comic-Con, it's between Ukraine and Crimea. So it's interesting how that ties into this. And that started with Crimea. Interesting. I didn't really understand that until it told me that. I didn't think of that. So you could see these three things right here is what separates Crimea. So we see all this. This is one part of it. But then when Yalta Conference came, it shifted what Crimea was. And if you took these things right here, you could say that the United States So, what's interesting about those last three things is because the United States was involved in all those things, and you can say the same thing about the United States. They determined how the world would function after World War II, with the UN, and they can command global war. To this day, the United States can command global war. And you could also say that the United States was involved in creating the Cold War. So, now you have two entities that are the same, but one has more power than the other. United States is on Israel. Crimea stands on its own. Crimea defeated Israel. You see, now we are getting to a problem that cannot be solved. This is called the unsolvable problem. I'm going to end it right here because I'm going to talk a lot about this. So part 3 is coming.